Make a motion, we sign and accept the minutes as written.
Second is to review and approve September 8th, 2021.
Make a motion, we sign and approve the December 8th, 2021 as written.
What? You want me to bring it up?
Budget committee.
What's that?
The budget committee.
Oh, no, that's bad. He's supposed to be here. Are you guys going to set that budget committee?
I think we should.
I'm going to think we're looking for. Well, who's the good for all mine? I can tell you that.
We'll put it in the job.
I know for sure that Dad's going to be here. My father said he would have. Yeah. So, I was going to find a couple others to help him out. I'd gladly help him, but like I said,
You can't have a bias for it.
right. Okay. There we go. Everyone's on board.
Gary, you interested in being on the budget committee?
My blood pressure is pretty low right now. We're going to need blood pressure comment on how low it is.
You good? You get nothing to There he is, right there. They just approved you to head the budget committee. Okay.
You excited?
You
Excited?
Am I excited?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Tonight we have Red Dawn and we have the county section office. So everybody has.
I understand.
I mean,
There you go. The mic work.
I think that's.
There we go.
Sure everybody has some concerns and questions for him. If you do have questions or concerns, please come up and use the microphone so we can get you on the camera and on the video. that out.
If I have paperwork for you. If you don't mind, I'm gonna start here and just pass it down and start the file number. This is a tax assessment return, to be returned back to the treasurer of Cumberland County. This is the county tax, to be signed by the assessor. This is a supplement that we had discussed last time I was up here, about to remove, Daniel Pierce, remember there was a question about giving an extension. So that is now in compliance, and we just sign this supplement, which is the tree growth withdrawal and tree growth penalty for non-compliance. Say it again. Wait, that's the original. This is Daniel Pierce's tree growth application. Yes, down below. This is a tree growth application for map 13, lot 14. Tree growth application for map 10, lot 38.
Get all these other applicants you're looking for.
We did. Yeah. Picture actually attached to it. Okay, so this one is an abatement application. It's going to be some corrections and rebounds. So this is one of your first one. So this is for 48 Mountain Road, an inspection on the property last Friday. We definitely graded high, we made corrections on, adjusted the grade of the property, lowered it, adjusted flooring, adjusted the sketch that was measured there. So the total abatement of $19,800 for tax credit, $269.68. It's going to be Jeff's copy and my copy. You guys have signed both, would be great. Like to see back paperwork with all of your, want to have the whole thing. modification, if you want to see the old car, new car adjustment, and if you want to see what I've changed. I wasn't here for it long. So this one includes 6 abatement applications. There's been some questions I hear that there's a question on whether there's a view tax. There is no such thing as view tax. There's a view factor, many factors that contribute to the overall assessed value of the property. The situation where I went out and looked at a couple of these last Friday as well, I did see that the Sebago Lake view was a little on the high side, so we made adjustments for that. It was 3 times the value of a normal house lot on that first lot. Disagree with that, as I met with a couple of people that are here in the audience and explained to them that that view factor still will be there, but I'll make an adjustment to it. What I feel comfortable with now is 2 times, so it's at 50,000, not 75,000. But I did also print off so you guys can actually see color pictures of what was being called that view.
What do you mean by view factor? What does that mean?
You have a view.
Bright sunny day, beautiful.
You have a view. So there's 3 different view factors out there right now. There's mountain average, mountain excellent, and Sebago Lake. Nothing new, as many factors contribute to the overall. Matter of fact, Hiram has a view factor that had it since at least 1994.
So if it was a foggy day, and we set the scene, you couldn't see it very well.
They were back more than once, because it happened foggy more than one time or 3 times.
What do you got, Kevin?
Not sure on that view factor. That includes 15 Lake, or is it overlooking the whole town of Baldwin? And I know how many Mountain Views we have. I know all those areas. And I know a lot of these houses have spectacular views. They might not do the lake, but spectacular views. I just don't know if that applies.
I answered you guys, so if you want to get a question, I will definitely answer your question.
Okay, well, the question is it just lake views, mountain views, or?
No, so you have an average mountain view, you have an excellent mountain view, and you also have a Sebago Lake mountain view. View. So there are other view conditions out there. So what I also want to show you on that is here's the, I'll bring it back to the lake. Here's the tables that are built into the system, so you can actually see them right here. You get good mountain view, excellent mountain view. So good is at 1.25 times the actual $25,000 buildable lot. excellent mountain views, 1.5 times. Sebago Lake is at 3 times. Which when I looked at that, I thought that was way too high. You have, pond up there in Sebago Pond, Dubby Pond, yeah, thank you. That, waterfront property is at 3 times the value if you have actual waterfront property. So to say that you actually have a view of Sebago Lake is worth the same as being on the water, to me was absolutely great, a little high, okay? But there definitely should be a view factor that's going to contribute to the overall sale of the property. What we did is just basically put it in line where it's 1.5, 1.25, 1.5. So that would be good, 1.25, excellent, 1.5, extreme jump to Sebago Lake was 3 times. That's what we made adjustments in there. Having worked in Hiram, and not that that's dictating anything, but just to show that there is not new. This is what Hiram has in place right now. They also have 3. You have 3. So our first is at 1.25. They're at 130. We're at 125. They're at 130. We're at 150 for the second. We're at 150. Okay. Their view here's 60, so it's 160. We're at 2. Now, what is that? I have to check. I don't remember what the base lot value is. What that actually comes up to. That's 1994. Yes, you can buy, so I put it in before that. Just there.
Any time that, say, the trees grew out, we have that be evaluated.
So we also ran a report of all the properties at 75,000. You see that I crossed out, they're actually waterfront with over an acre. The only ones in green are the ones that have the Sebago Lake view factor. To the 6th one. So every one of those were at 75 from the first acre. Now we do 50. That would be the acres I have here. The other two that popped up in the report actually were on some. So they're different there. Just one.
Why did they get it?
It's not the same condition factor. It's not, they're on the water line. It just pulls because they were at 75. To go back to this here. These are giving you your Sebago Lake was at 3 times. So it's up with pond at 3 times. So that was around the way factor. Different coding. I'm not afraid to know.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you guys are the assessors, so you make the decision. I mean, that's what we're seeing now, what I agree with now. So that's what I recommend. First, we'll leave on our own. So that's what all 6 of these are. Go ahead, you want to hand, if you want to sign again.
A view is a view. That's right. If you're gonna choose 1.5 times, that's fine. It shouldn't be this one, this one, this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. I mean, it should be a view of it, not a cat, bad, not a cat. The factor, but what we can
is there
But you know what I'm saying? I mean, it should be the same. If you have a view of something, you should tax the same. No matter if it's blue water or mountain.
do we have the power?
You do? I would disagree with that. Absolutely.
Sorry, but I can't understand you very well with math, obviously a challenge, and you put off the ground, so you're talking to the mic, you would have heard that. But either way, when did the, view tax come into play? When did somebody decide that view tax should be taxed? I lived up where I lived since 1955, and I hate to say this, but you'll start going back and adding, when all trees started growing. But when you go out in the front yard, I'm more looking down at the whole field where the cows are, and looking up at the views that somebody puts up on. So, what is the value of the place on? Because if I put a fence up so I can't see that view, it will reduce my taxes. It is what it is, and I didn't put it there.
Right.
And the people that built there, the Flints, when they first moved there, and the Cooks, when they moved there, everybody had it. And if you look at some of the old records, I don't know if it's Cooks or Flint, but they actually named the farm Grandview Farm, English. So they took themselves out. But, all these years that I lived there, 30 plus years, I never had a view tax.
Right, yeah.
So,
It's something that, it seems to be a new thing for us. It's something that's why everybody kind of shocked. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, you didn't have a lot of the old system that was in place, which is why we recommended the revamp in the first place, to actually get better information. Not a view tax, it's still a factor.
Right.
So it's a factor as in, can you hear me that way better?
There you go.
I'll fly you away. You know, so it's still just a factor. So there's many factors. You don't have them quite so much up here, but you know, you'll understand if I say that the other side of the track, the better side of town, the better subdivision versus the lesser subdivision. Those are factors, contributing factors to the value. Would someone pay, you got the same house here, you got the same house over here, but this is a better location. You're gonna pay more for over there? Absolutely they do. You know, this whole reval was based off sales, you know, the sales that you guys had up here. You didn't have a ton, but they're going, that's why we went back to it for years, to grab what we could from your sales. And that's how you build the table. So that's a contributing factor to the view. You know, excuse me, to the overall test of the view is, you know, so, you know, you can say, oh, well, let them grow up, I do this. Well, you're not, you're cutting it, aren't you? So you're not. So, it obviously has value to the individual that's not cutting the trees, or, you know, or cutting the trees and seeing the view. And when it comes time for selling the place, that's the first place you're gonna walk that new buyer to is, look at that view. So it's contributing back to the overall sale.
so not to interrupt the gentleman, but that's the problem that I have with this whole thing with reval. You're looking at other pieces of property and what they sold for. God willing, I hope to die in that house if the taxes don't drive me away. So I could give a West Rainbow a house similar to mine, what they got for it, they had a view, they had this. I don't care. Just leave me alone, let me pay my base tax plus whatever incremental that we have to have cost of living, you add that, that's a realistic number. God forbid, if I die and I'm sick and I have to move out, they have to sell the property, then whatever they get for it, fine. From that point forward, it goes up to that level because that's what it's sold for. But don't tell me what you think it might sell for. I mean, I have a real problem with that.
Isn't that kind of subjective? I mean, it's not a factual thing, it's a subjective thing. So it's not something that I don't feel you can put in concrete. This is not gonna have time to value plan. It's a subjective thought, but it's not.
Question too, so these people that are paying for the extra view, what if you get a neighbor with a dumpy house and cars in the yard, do they get a lower tax rate because they have a dumpy neighbor? We're making people pay the extra money for their neighbor's good view. It doesn't work both ways.
Don't work that way.
Well,
Right.
Do you have codes in place to take care of situations like that? Do you have ordinances in place for junkyard ordinances, things like that, to send your code officer to clean up?
We do, but we
So
also.
that's not
we
real-
also don't
that's
have
not
any-
a real
we don't
estate
have a
factor.
view factor.
That's
view
not a
factor
real estate
either.
factor. It's not a real estate factor.
So why do we have a few factor with this newer system?
If that is the tax plus the answer, why is that into a lot of them? Why is the problem tax?
We didn't have that, so it's a new evaluation come out, so who initiated the new factor? I guess that's what you think.
Yeah, that will still be, it's part of the sale, when you extract sales, so bear with me. Yeah, so bear with me, so, if you have, let's just take an average ranch, I'm good with taking this off, it's going on and on. So, if you have an average ranch, any place in town, right? So we're gonna take that ranch, we're gonna put it in the average house lot, like everybody's gonna claim that they have right now, and right now that's first local lot, $25,000. If I take that same ranch and put it up on top of a hill that's got views, you know, over higher, and I got some beautiful mountain views, we talked about that the other day, so, for example, which house is gonna sell for more?
It depends on the market. You have a down market, no house is sell. You have a up market, people got it.
Market's gonna be the same for both, and they're selling at the same time. So which one's gonna sell for more money?
But that's the buyer.
Right.
It's not up.
Supply and demand, brother.
Like the owner to be taxed for 30 years, extra money, and we might not be able to sell it for that.
Again, you guys are the assessors, if that, you want that mode to change, you need to go talk to your state rep, because the state law is the way we have to do it. Now, the actual values are, subjective and based on opinion, absolutely, based on what we're extracting out of sales. To answer my own question, this house up here that's got the view, somebody's gonna want it, you may not, somebody's gonna pay more for that. Somebody's gonna pay more for the waterfront property, somebody else might not want it. So you're right, you're correct, that not every buyer is gonna want that individual house. But the value on that house,
But there's somebody that might want it, but the pool is good. Well, let the pool of people that might want it.
but the sale dictates that, and that is the sale price. So let me address one other thing to you, Gary, to you, and then thus to them, okay, is that, with mass appraisals, there's a difference between fee appraisal and mass appraisal. So to actually, I think there's a gentleman over there that said that, you know, leave me alone until my house sells, then chase that. It's illegal to chase sales. Right up there by state laws and been made a point very clearly in the law courts, is that it's illegal to chase sales. So fee appraisal, if a fee appraiser comes in, they actually come into your house, specifically account for a specific value on your house. And assessment, we put a specific value on your house that's based on a mass scale. So we have one other quality that the basic fee appraiser or your real estate licensee that doesn't understand or follow the rule of is equity across the board. So as assessors, we have to keep that in mind as you're kind of grading on the curve. So is everybody going to be treated 100% fairly? Absolutely not. Never will be. It's going to be mass appraisal. So you'll always have that grading on the curve. Is somebody going to be lower than they probably should? Probably. Somebody going to be just a little higher than they probably should? Absolutely. Just how mass appraisal works.
You want that?
I have a question about if you've got views and everything, and that constitutes, what is a private road or discontinued road where it has no town maintenance at all? That must constitute the value of the property.
Again, sales dictates that section of the neighborhood. I don't have the book from those that we hired. Baldwin hired us to do the reval. We hired KRT. So what I can tell you, I have some issues with KRT right now, giving information to me, so I don't have those sales. Sit here and go, this is what it is. So I'm in a little bit of a deficit. It always will take a year to shake things out anyway, which is what we're doing right now. It's why we prep for additional monies to be used for maintenance. There will always be that shakeout time. I've seen a few other issues that are going to be cleaned up as well, and we're working through them. It's a situation where, again, you know, dirt road, private roads, all of that factors in when somebody buys that property. So the sales is dictating what that place is worth. So if there is depreciation based off this ranch sitting over here on a public road versus this ranch sitting over here on a private way, sales will show.
Why didn't you have the same net sale, 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, for that situation?
stand up, please? We can't hear you. Can you stand
I was
up?
just wondering if they had a payment or something like that, if we have a, you know, that factor of point from you, but I'm just paying for private road, anything like that.
Not for a private road.
I got my house on the market twice, and most recent was for a year, I was in May. And it was not nearly market value what it has been assessed at. I mean, you can take into consideration the repairs that the house needs and the age.
They should be looked at, they should be looked at,
The
so,
house was built in 1827,
Right.
really old house.
right. So, again, I'll say to you guys, say to them, is that, general assessing questions, more than happy to answer right now, you know, that type of thing. Specific, actual specifics, you need to file an abatement. So if you have issues with the actual overall value, you need to file an abatement paperwork. That's, some of these that I have in front of me tonight have done that. I've actually been out and inspected 8 or 9 properties, whatever it was, on Friday myself personally. So I've gone inside, looked at them, reevaluated them, and that's how those individual items will be addressed.
Okay, you have to get work there.
Here's another question that I got brought up. I'm gonna fill out, like, my brother, he has a house on my land, like behind me, but his is like, not even close, but he's been in the hospital, like, he's on close. I just wanna know, can I fill this out to him, and will somebody get a hold of me to go to his house? Or do you just go to his house without?
No, if that's what you prefer.
After I fill this out, will somebody get a hold of me?
Yeah, whatever information you put on there, that's fine with me.
So somebody will call me and set up a time to do it? Okay, thank you. My only question
Thank you.
See you then.
I just gotta read one thing. I had an evaluation, get some money for my kitchen cost. We need to invest $250,000, well, 3 years ago. They got a judge, all their prices off this pocket, and it's freaking boom. I've been paying my taxes forever. I was a value 250, 260. I know you said they had it screwed up. But the thing is, I'm at 389, I don't know what to change it to, but that's a lot of money. I mean, and they're judging it on today's market. And this evaluation was done 3 years ago, but I was told it didn't matter. Because it doesn't matter. It's 3 years ago, correct? Because you may have hit it on this year, and on how the market is just really booming, thanks to my money.
When you got bank appraisals, simply does what you said. More than happy to take a look at them. We don't refuse them. But when they are that old, they're old. You know, and the other thing is they're a bank appraisal. So 90+% of the time, they're not accurate. Because the bank's just covering their assets. You know, to what they lend on. So there are conditions with how that's done. So we'll take into account, maybe very well could be something that's wrong, and we'll have to, again, I'm gonna come out and look at it.
Do you have a list of factors that you use during your evaluation? And if so, there's copies for us to look at, such as you said, you factor, whatever.
I don't have that.
You don't have that.
Condition factors, you can get this is what's built in the system. But I mean, again, I'm waiting for KRP to give me what their sales based off of the book that they're supposed to give me, so that may have something in there. I don't know.
I mean, how will we know that you give us an assessment and what is it based on?
Call individually, like I said, if you have questions, you're more than welcome to call down to our office, we'll walk you right through it, make sure it's accurate. I know my admins are sitting there asking everybody, what do you have on your floor, they just wanna make sure everything's accurate.
You have the standard, like, a basement, or no basement, things like that, that you go by, or this.
Yes, correct, yes. The property card will show that, so when you call, and you wanna run down through your property card, we're more than happy to email it to you, so you have a copy in your hand. You can look at it, call us, we'll walk down through it, and you can see exactly how it's broken down.
Okay, so I can call Cumberland County Assessment and you'll send it.
Absolutely.
Okay, great, thank you.
I think that's an important thing you just touched on right there. Area, you know, you and I was talking today, he's using KIT's phone number. But everything now is gotta go through Cumberland County Assessor. So anybody that's got questions or anything, or they want any information, go to Cumberland County Assessor, please.
I think everybody has to go on the meeting now if they have any questions.
Absolutely.
There's no arguing what they've done so far, we're locked into what they've done. You have to file an abatement.
I'm gonna use you as an example. Okay. So, a couple of things though I have come across, so maybe this will clarify some questions too. One of the questions that and this is you, Gary, one of the questions we've come across, actually this. And I was thinking about printing up a huge copy so you guys could all see it, but people are questioning the age of the house. Now that absolutely could be wrong, so if you know different, let us know. But when you look at your property card, there's gonna be, effective year built, and AYB is just above that. So AYB is your actual year built. So a lot of people are coming to me and saying 1970 is much older. It's actually 1880, so many of you.
My house wasn't built in 1970, was it, Gary?
No, it wasn't. No, I don't know.
The actual year built is 1880. The depreciation wise, because it's been kept up, it wasn't left to fall apart since 1880. It's being looked at as a 1970, which is still going to be extremely high depreciation. Yeah, we haven't put that on there. I'll be out one. The other thing is when there's requests saying that a certain section is unfinished. So again, I need somebody to file an abatement form, because then I'm going to turn around and contact somebody from my office to contact and try to set an appointment to come inside and verify. With COVID going on, if somebody's not comfortable with that, we will accept photographs. But I have to be able to prove and look at them and say they were taken today. So we're starting to get a lot of, I don't know if there's a lot, but a few, just random cards with things crossed out. And that's not going to do anything. I mean, that's causing a lot of extra paperwork when somebody needs to file an abatement application.
I got just another quick question. You said the state required if you do a feedback.
No, but there's certain procedures on how you assess. So,
What's the procedure?
I'm sorry.
Who sets these procedures?
Procedures overall through assessment standards, so, but the state has regulations that we need to follow.
Do they have a booklet on those regulations for the general public?
Yeah, you can access it, through Maine Revenue Service, Property Tax Division, and under the assessors page, you can access.
But there's no mandate or law saying you have to have a feedback.
That's
That would
actually,
be up to town whether we require it.
that'll be up to the assessors.
All I want to know.
Yeah.
I have a question.
This is why you should have a full-time assessor. Not elected.
I have a question. When you were assessing property along the Saco River, did you take into consideration restrictions that the Saco River Florida put on that land?
They should have, absolutely, yeah. I got some issues I still need to look at, but if you have a specific question, feel free to address it, absolutely.
Okay, so I didn't know that it was taken into consideration.
Should be, absolutely, yep.
How would I know that? How can I tell? Did you get that?
Those values are typically based off sales. So we know that there are restrictions as far as setbacks and things like that. That's already built in. So when the place sells, that first acre has a value attached to it. Right now, all excess acreage across the whole town no longer has this massive tiered discount that it used to have. Everything's at $1,500 for excess acreage. And then these different, I didn't have that, I'm sorry. So the different base lot values, Saco River being one of them, have different base lot values based on where they're located. Because again, yes, that's taken into effect and it shows in the sales, but so does the access that you have to the river, if you want a kayak, if you want a whatever, there's other values there, obviously depending on the property. If you have a steep embankment, then file for the
Anybody else?
I have another question, that's like what I asked before, but if we get this, description of how our, assessment was made, for, if we have a view lot, will it say view lot and will it tell us exactly?
You know.
Okay, I cannot get one of those.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, and it has everything in it, like,
Yeah, you're not gonna directly see it, we know what it is, it's a code, it's a code 5, for the, Sebago.
okay, so if you wouldn't know, whether or not we were assessed or
I mean, I can back into the system and.
but we would call you people, you would know.
Correct.
That's how we would find.
Correct, because you're not gonna even care whether it had that, what's gonna trigger, you're gonna go, hey, I got a view, but I'm treating the same as everybody. You're gonna sit there and go, why am I at $75,000 for the first acre, right? So, that's what you're putting. You're not saying, why am I so high? You know, so, you're gonna call up and say, hey, why am I so high? And we're gonna look at it, we're gonna say, it's because of this reason, and, go from there. This is your county tax.
I'm not gonna go into 9 days, it's not like they find something before you talk about that,
So
but
just return to the treasurer.
And there is a mistake, if my taxes are already paid, we get a check from the town. Like it's doing it is. Wait, until next year.
You'll get that.
So you figure it out, right? That's what we got.
We set money aside for, so, you know, the council will do this, so, that has the insight to raise it up a little bit more than usual, because we knew it was one of the problems or concerns. So, yeah, you'll get a shot.
There always will be, like I say, that time for shakeout. It was made even worse this year with COVID, because not only do you not get inside some houses anyway, but it was even fewer this time, because of COVID, time to hit and everything like that.
Now, I live next door to him, another one at 75,000. And I worked so much, I couldn't make that time to work, but, you know, I'm a private person, so I just think, okay, I'll take the inflation rate, I'll take this, I think I'm just gonna put it all.
Okay.
I updated that, I'm willing to show you if you want to not measure it, I mean, it's pretty cut and dry, you know, my, they get to the, let's see where I end up with that. Yeah, that's something we come out with, and that's a good thing to, something to put that as well.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Which property are you?
Right next door, like the person right next door, yeah, 24 feet.
24 feet, yeah, okay. So we just did, the adjustment for the view, because you're in there.
Okay.
That's why I just want to get it adjusted all. So, but have you filed in the big now?
I have it,
Okay.
Right here, then.
Okay. So I will definitely, yeah, we'll make an appointment. I'm preferring to do these myself, to do a staff down there, obviously, but I want to go through and look at them. To be honest, I'm also grading how PRC did their job.
Yeah, it's frustrating, because I made an appointment with them, so they said they would have to change it. And never gonna keep paying again, you know, here I am, so. I realized, you know, that one of them was great.
Well,
I
that
did
is,
that, I get away with that, but.
yeah, it honestly was something I inherited as the new director there, it's already ongoing. So I apologize for any of the issues anybody's had, but again, all the contractors come from the county, and we're gonna make it right, so let's move.
I know there's been some concern about, a lot of people say that that's aggressive, so I think that they should notify what, for the tax rate, the way we can adjust that for that. Probably.
Yeah, they have to get in touch with them directly themselves, yeah.
So that, you know, the payments don't go up.
Since I get you on, I've been represented, so that's good.
Yeah.
My daughter works for a road savings bank, That's one problem they got right now. Values and stuff have gone up, taxes have changed. So the escrow is, like, what everybody's complaining about. It isn't. Yeah, we're not isolated, I'll tell you, but again.
So I hear what you're saying to him in terms of coming and looking at his property, square footage, and so on and so forth. Are you also able, or is somebody also able to walk, if we're talking about the land? Are you able to walk the property with me to see the area that's what I would consider trash land or certain marginal in terms of value?
Is it wetland?
It's wetlands and it's ledge, piles of ledge. If I could see Steve up there, he probably could show me my microphone, and he'd find a value for it. But if you were trying to build a house or do whatever, if you went to the bathroom in that bucket and threw it over the cliff, because there's no way you're gonna get septic system or well or anything. I just like to show you, I have a drawing I would like, but just make sure we're all on the same page. If this is $1 million property, with marketable house, it's not.
Difficult right now, I had this conversation with somebody on Friday for me to see that it's wet, because it's not wet right now. You know, this is always wet, it's not, you know, so it's hard to see right now. So what I always require anyway, unless it's, you know, I had one situation up here about 1.5 years ago that clearly was in water, you know, so we did do a discount factor. Other than that, normally, I want a wetland delineation from the surveyor.
If we have a rainfall, you will see it.
Yeah.
And also, if you wind up going up the Town Road, you see the culvert.
Yeah.
They have at the end of the Town Road, there's a reason for that culvert, because everything from my
Yeah,
property drains.
That's not gonna be something I'm gonna go measure the tape measure and do the calculation, say, okay, we're doing 1/4 acre. You know, again, I'm gonna want to see a wetland delineation from the surveyor, and they'll be able to nail out exactly what the acreage is and where it's wet, and based on the, foliage and stuff like that.
I have no problem paying for what I got, I just don't want it to be misconstrued, it's all, I don't have $1 million property.
So where's the figure for acre land involved?
Just one second, I meant to say this to fix out. I will never forget you, so, no, but one other part that I want to follow up on that, as far as the buildability of the property, ledge, whatever you want to talk about, that's not in our department to make that decision, that's gonna be your code officer. And, we just had a conversation about that the other day, you know, on what triggers that, how your ordinance works and things like that, so. Ultimately, it's gonna be, the decision's gonna come from him, and it's not close.
And it's landlocked property as well.
Yeah, and that's definitely something we could talk to us about. Yeah, so we can research the deeds and find out if there's any right of way or any patterns at all.
The deer and the turkey and the $20, they all have the ones with the time up there, but they don't have the ones with the.
They love it.
So, an acre of Baldwin is worth what? Big price.
What's that?
The acre of land in Baldwin is worth what?
Per acre, buildable lots, $25,000.
$25,000 per acre.
For buildable lot, you need 2 acres to build a house.
Need 2 acres, that's first.
So, 50 grand, 2 acres.
25,000 is the base lot, yeah.
And the second
$1,500 for the second, and anything thereafter.
I don't know if you tell me I need 2 grand an acre to do it.
There's also factors that of course based on where you're located. I'm sorry.
Has it always been? I thought it was 12,500.
It was 27,000 when we took over, 27,000 for the first acre. It was $1,500 for the next 5 excess acreage. It was $1,000 per acre for the next 20 acres. It was $750 for the next 25 acres after that, and $600 an acre after that for every acre thereafter.
So actually, we even 28,000.
So, yeah,
Right?
yes,
28,500,
28,500 before.
28,500, okay. That's what I always was, but it's 2 acres, like you said. First acre 25, the other 15. Okay. So, 48,500. For the house lot,
That's what it was, now it's 26,500.
26. Perfect. That's great.
You get yours all added up now.
get it out there.
Just there.
I just have a question, because the assessment's being done at a time when the housing market is booming, so everybody's property is up there right now. What happens if we have a crash? Now, I know we have to want to go get another master appraisal, and then we would have to do another abatement, because this isn't gonna happen again for another 10 years, correct?
That's, yes and no. I mean, we can make corrections if the market really tanked, like it did back in
Yeah,
2008.
I mean, my house is 400,000 now, and the market crashed in two.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna take that, 400,000.
Yeah, providing that we obviously have a lot better information than we had, it's gonna be a lot easier to make a mass correction, without having to necessarily do a full rebound. It is possible to do that.
Well, we could do it on our own taxpayers.
It wouldn't work because the tables are built in according to the reval. So, I mean, you could say, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're gonna file for an abatement because my house is worth 200,000 now, and, you know, not 350 or 400 or whatever, you know, it's still gonna have to fit within that curve, rating on the curve, if you will, still have to fit within the tables.
Right, that's the property value.
So I can't change yours and not change everybody. So I'll use the Sebago view as an example. I had 6 of them all together being hit with the same view factor, which I felt was high. So then I bring it back to them to recommend that it be changed, because they are your assessor. So we did make that adjustment, but I can't make it just for one, I gotta make it for all of those other factors.
Right, so we could get together collectively get it down, if we were all feeling the same conscience. Well, all for town, we could go right down to that. Say, it's not really that vote on that.
Yes and no. You can't dictate, no public meeting can't dictate what the assessors do. The assessors are to do it according to the sales data and other factors they provide. I'm sorry?
You said according to sales.
Yeah, we're probably talking the same thing, but I'm just being a little more detailed, knowing what I know, but it's just, you know, it's gonna be based on the sales. Again, I'm trying to eliminate what could be conceived as a win, because we want our assessments lower, we can't do that.
Just there.
Well, not to throw anybody under the bus here, but, making reference to a conversation I had with previous assessors during the time the economy was struggling, and I made the statement on some of the property that this stuff isn't going to sell. What you get back, what are you going to do? And his answer to me is, no, it may not sell right now, but when the economy turns around, it will sell. So that's the problem with that. Once they assess this value on it, it always seems to go up, it never comes down. That's my opinion.
Another thing to take into consideration is that, my understanding, you guys feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding that the last full reval of the town of Baldwin was 2003. So, that's the information I had. Sound about right? Not that, not a little past. Yeah, not that. Not that. No, so I mean, you're going from, sales and tables that were built in 2003 sales, you know, 2001, 2002. You know, so you went from that last year to sales that are more permanent now. So yeah, it's a huge jump, you know, but the difference is the more assessed value that you grab, it drives your mill rate down, which we saw this year.
Because the state involved the school system.
They have an equalization.
And that goes up to about 28% this year. Very good. Because the higher valuation could put on the country county money or something. And so that's really like fuel, 76% of our money goes to the school. So we gotta run this town on 24%.
No, about 14%.
14%?
Goes to the county.
Oh, because the county, that's right. So we're getting, school level.
Working the same factors almost in every town across the state. So.
But more so because the company, if we changed over to York County, we could have a petition the state to do that in Roxbury County, we could have that. Then we pay less for a school system. You pay less for
concern is that, you know, whether you look at a 10-year span, or some of us have been for 30, 40 years, you look at the fabric of the town, you think people that support the town, people, fire companies, all the organizations or whatever, and when you excessively tax the properties these people have, if you drive them away, then you've driven, essentially, you've driven the fabric of the town, you know, the values of quality, will have all those people from away, because that seems to be where all the money is coming from. Right. So, you know, unless you wind up with some sort of an article in the town warrant or something that says anything 10 years or older is valued at a base price with incremental increase or whatever, so that it protects it. You know what I mean? There's property on Pickle Road, there's property on Douglas Hill Road, there's property, the stuff flips over every 2 or 3 years because the people here, they move on. So, to penalize the existing people here, that everything that comes down that chapter, somebody says, well, because that's all for that, but you also, I don't care what mine is worth. Right, but then I get sick and I die and you have to sell it, they'll know what it's worth, and at that point, they won't have any argument for it, so you're absolutely correct, it's worth that because that's what it's sold for. Yeah. But it's not on the market. I want to die with it, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is appropriate, but let me ask a question about the mill records.
Go ahead.
And why wasn't it lower before, and what it is, it appears to have something it's going to make a lot of money. I looked at the appraisal and received the total appraisal for Baldwin, and it appears that 65% of all, property owners, increased the value of over 100,000, and most of them were much more than 100,000. So, what is the reason why the mill levy is still high?
So, I mean, I can answer it, but it's your guy. Yeah. I mean, based on your budgets, you know, I mean. Yeah, well, I don't have all your numbers necessarily as well as memorized as well as you do, but I mean, let's look at you got it right here in front of you, right? So, I mean, you know that your schools have gone up. I don't have it this right now, but you have it.
It's gone up 61%.
Yeah, but if you compare last year to this year, your budget numbers, did your municipal appropriations go up or down? Did your school budget go up or down? You know, these are all factors that build in. Your budget basically dictates your mill rate. You know, so like Wes and I were talking the other day, you know, it's kind of like a seesaw effect. You know, in the middle is your budget, fulcrum, right? So that's your budget. So if you want to play here or you want to play here with your budget, you guys can have police department, you can have brand new fire trucks, that's where your budget's going to play, right? So, but based on your assessment, it's going to drive your mill rate up or down within that range, okay? So the more assessment you get, the higher your assessments, and drive the mill rate down, they counteract each other. Because it doesn't matter, let's just use simple numbers, that fulcrum, your budget is 20, it's either going to be 4 times 5 is 20, or, you know, it's going to be 10 times 2 is 20. You know, so your mill rate can be driven down to 2 if you grab more assessment. It's not like you're making things up, you're going to grab what's actually helping. You know, there was a lot of buildings across the town that weren't being accounted for, which were picked up. Yeah. You disagree? I don't know what side my wrong on that one, I mean, you know, but yeah, I mean, I go back to this.
That the town is going to generate a lot of money from the increase in taxes. And I was just wondering, what is the need for
have the extra money you think we do. You know, we run about $1 million in the fund balance all the time. Sometimes it gets a little like less than that, you know, but to get to your mill rate question, if I can explain it like this, you take what it costs to run the town and divide it into what the state valuation is, and that gives you the mill rate. You know, and that's figured in there, so you've got some fund balance and stuff, so if you have something happen, say we had a hurricane come through here, wipe out a couple of bridges, you had that money available to be able to, you know, get your town back up on its feet.
But you're only grabbing.
But we're not rolling in money, I'll tell you. I don't know if that helps you or not, but.
So you can look at the tax rate balance sheet, which I'm just showing here. So everything's accounted for on there, and it's your bills. Everything that you have that creates your mill rate, that creates what your mill rate is going to be, right? Is all your bills. The only flux you have there, which you're allowed to do under state law, would be your overlay. You're allowed to assess 5% higher than what you actually need. You're at 2.5, roughly. Do quick math here, 2.5% more. So the only extra money that you're talking about would be the 2.5% overlay. Okay, which we've designated for your town vote, work on the law, knowing that this is coming, that it would be used towards maintenance. It basically, in reality, just escapes from your general fund. You know, it's restricted fund balance, but with that vote authorized reaching into that restricted fund balance to take the money and pay the maintenance.
For the maximum,
By state law.
We're 2.5.
Yeah, you're only at 2.5, roughly, but maximum you're allowed to be 5%. And if that's not used, too, let's just make that clear, if that's not used, again, look at your restricted fund balance, makes your town stronger, and I'm sure, I don't know the history of your town, but in my town, when the fund balance starts getting stronger and stronger, like, hey, I'm gonna take $300,000 and offset tax.
so what I'm hearing, like basically, I guess, is a question to ask for the court on this later. Okay, so we assessed a certain amount last year, we had to assess a certain amount. Okay, our budget, what we had at the town meeting, we don't know what we spent. But it always seemed to have the same thing. So from what the mill rate just dropped a little bit, so what you're telling us, through all this evaluation, the town value didn't really go up. These people in the room that are complaining, or, I mean, it must have gone up. I don't want to go substantial, 25 million. 25 million. So they go back to the mill rate also, you know, like they're up mill right now. Yeah, we're in all, I mean, so.
No, it's went down to almost 2.
Right, it's almost over, okay.
You were at 15, 22, down to 13, 6 now.
It doesn't have to pay anything, you know what I mean? So it seems like it'd be a lot in that restricted balance.
Well, I think again, you know, if you guys want to look at that, I would look at last year's tax rate count versus this year's, look at your municipal appropriations, you know, if it's trimming back there, probably the school, you know, I don't know. It's hard to trim that back, and you guys, trash goes up, I'm sure, it's the same story everywhere.
Trash in the schools.
The biggest thing for it.
We'll get it this year in the school, about $7,000.
Yeah, waste disposal, you lost all the recyclables.
So our school budget, we're getting around $140,000 a month for the school budget right now.
But that was all budgeted last year.
But you want to remember their fiscal year and our fiscal year is different too.
Well, I understand that, but still all things, when they, number. You know what I mean? Yeah, I know you're right, you know, you're waiting, I understand, that's very well, yeah.
Like I say, next year I'm scared. I'll tell you right now. We don't know who the school board thing and everything, how things are gonna go. And the revenue sharing to the state, we don't know how that's gonna go. You know, to get stuff back to the town.
All right, I'll take it.
billion, the rent, you know, can't they want to be 5 billion for rent? That's a rent.
So rough.
Don't give anybody else, I'll tell you.
Values.
Right, 21.
Okay, well,
So the school went up 2.5%, so they said, like, 2.5%. Why didn't my taxes just go up 2.5% instead of, dude, I don't think, salaries up to $5,000. That's not 2.5%.
school went up by 100,000.
Yeah, come on. Move that out there.
It's a simple question.
Thank you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the extra 25 million evaluation, this is extra evaluation, right? But that's our evaluation.
That's assessment. There was 21.8, Derek
So
said.
that's not what it rated, right?
No, that's what they're showing me, about $296,000 worth.
That's all it went up.
Not that much tax, 296,000, so if you went up by 100 some odd thousand, you know,
A lot of people say the same, or went down, obviously.
40, 20, so,
So 300,000. 50, 209. That's all it went up.
Yes.
rate that much more.
So the valuation is currently went down. That was the same.
The assessed value went up 21,800,000 roughly, but that only equates to, just under $300,000 of tax money. So money you're gonna spend to pay your bills, that's all that brought up. Makes it more than right. It's not like a ton of money, you know, when you start looking at paying for school.
yes.
I was thinking all my life, 1,500, so, okay. Oh, that was,
It's all.
it's just,
But yeah, and then we'll come on back and we'll look at it. Like I said, I'm sure there's definitely gonna be errors, there always is in the reval. You know, it's frustrating, it's time consuming for everybody, but we'll help you get it fixed, we'll look at it, and, if there's really nothing I can do, then I'm gonna tell you right up front. I'll stay with it,
and this is probably relevant to anything with the fact that AIT, you know, who we deal with, maybe this is true. But when I went to meet with him, I asked him about the deal, I said, what happens, like you said, well, if it grows up? He said, well, if it does, we'll go back to the assessment, they readjust.
Yes.
That's true, and then we go with that, when you get over
Gary?
Yeah, just a question that, I heard some rumblings about, talk about seceding from Cumberland County and looking at particular county. So my question is, when, you're doing the assessment of the property sales, is it for property sales right in Baldwin, or could it be down Cumberland Creek or?
Baldwin.
So Baldwin itself.
Any more questions?
The only one thing I'll say too, that I've noticed, and I sat in on a few of the hearings, a couple, I'll say, I tried to get there a couple days, but, when KRT was doing the hearing, they want to help a few people out, as I'm sitting there, because they didn't have the homestead exemption application filled out. So if you guys don't have that, and you think you qualify, you've been in the property for over a year, it's your main residence, you know, did the application here at the town office. We got a few things, so obviously we have a lot of things we're still trying to straighten out and whatnot, with the reval and whatnot, but one thing I want to do is do a mass mailing. I'll have to go for your guys' permission or whatever to do that, but I want to do a mass mailing to everybody that we can find, that we think, you know, based on the year that they bought the house, you know, and we've done some other towns, we actually sent out 1,400 comments last year. I can't remember, I think we had 1,100 responses. Homesteading. I mean, to help the individual taxpayer, that's definitely one thing we can do. It will exempt a lot more property in the overall, because they're going to rate up, but I mean, it's but yeah.
People watching the news, see what's happening in the little town of Clinton, the middle part of the state. No, they went 13 years before they had a revaluation. The taxpayers wouldn't allow any money for a revaluation, so the state has just come in on them. They took all that homestead and this is away from them. So you figure $30,000 for Homestead is what they lost through the state. Try to make that amount of tax money up. You know, that's a big hit.
Spaces that haven't spoke yet, anybody?
So, I mean, you basically, what, pick up a form?
Yep.
Right over there at the table.
The one thing too with the abatements isn't a matter of just, well, I think it's too high. You know, you need to actually build your case, you have to prove your case. I hate to deny it just because, and that's why I actually spend the extra time trying to come out, but I'm also in 5 towns. And everybody committed within a week or two of each other, so all the abatements that need to come out will at least next year.
I mean, it is what it is, the one, there,
Yours
is made, you know.
Yours is
like that mortgage company, so.
But if you say, you know, in your abatement application, you just say, square footage is raw, want to have
That's
it
all
all
that
measured.
is, basically.
That's simple.
Just something.
Yeah. I actually, one of the people, actually, when I was out the other day, you know, I actually stopped in, and I'm like, I honestly don't understand what you're trying to tell me, and I don't want to deny it just because I don't understand, so please walk me through it, you know, and,
Yeah.
that's all we have to go, we'll process, next time. I'll be back in 2 weeks. I got 6 or 8 sitting on the desk right now, so I'll do more. Put me on the agenda, Daniel.
And for your time. Thank you.
I got it. I still take this one with you, Dale. I already paid the 50 cents, but,
Okay.
so that's the
All right.
Right. Brian's the best, so. What's that for me?
I think so, anybody else? Or you?
Once we do the abated form and any stuff over there or whatever, we bring it to the town.
You can bring it to the town, but Danielle's scanning them to us, and then she leaves them in a box. We're still doing office hours, first and third Friday of the month, so we'll pick them up. But, yeah, she gets them to us within the day.
So do we call it to make an appointment also, or do they call us?
We'll call you. Yeah, I did. Yeah, no, I did cold knock some places the other day, not sure how that was gonna work, it worked out all right, actually, one person I had never made an appointment with, said, are you from Cumberland County? And I said, yes, ma'am, I am, we can wait for you. I'm like, okay. That was fun.
So we do have until February, right, 185 days.
Yes, right. Yeah, the other thing I was looking at, I haven't really had a chance to fully study it, but we've been certifying, at 105% when we first took over, 103% last year on the certified ratio, and 100% this year is the reval. But, got a letter from the state, it looks like it should have been, the sales are showing that they're at 86%, I believe it was, and only allowed 10% of that. I was looking at that. And so that would mean that you would have dropped, your sales are escaping what the assessed value was based off, not the reval numbers, they haven't seen that yet. But based off last year's numbers and your sales that are ongoing, then basically you would have been around 90, probably 92%, you would have dropped that far. So, the sales are showing that people buying there is more than they think they are. Very good, see you in 2 weeks.
All right, that's pretty much all. Health off
Thank you. Really.
office name up in the flag.
Okay, I didn't know if you want me to call him again,
Yeah,
Dr. McKay. He's still,
I believe so.
okay. All right, I just wanted to check. I was just checking, okay.
He's done it the last couple of numbers.
Yeah.
Process. Thank you very much.
I think, the only stipulation was that the state was gonna require him to take the training. Because he doesn't have the training, like he is a doctor. So I don't know if that's gonna be a little, but I'll call the office and just let him know. I had it in the file that said, yeah, we'll do it this time, but next time he doesn't have to take the training. The state, so.
Land use ordinance change. So you guys, have you guys set up a public meeting yet for the land use ordinance change? No, probably, look at that Thursday night meeting. Okay. And after that, we'll do the second time meeting. Yep. Town assessor.
We don't count around the door. Everybody else is either got their own sets or have somebody else. No, we qualify as such. I don't know.
You think they're only now on the assessment property? That's my own problem.
You guys got enough for the vote in November?
That, I say yes.
You're going to? Is that a vote?
So what they're doing? So,
Are you guys gonna add that to the November vote?
yes, I think that's on me.
Yeah. We just do 90 days. We need to go 90 days to start count.
I mean, if you looked at it, it's gonna be the same as the presidential election timeframe.
Oh, no.
You just, we have to,
No,
we
you got
got
it, yeah. So I just want to get more information on it first, before what that involves. You know, what kind of power are we handing over to, yeah. I think the two people that are doing that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like I said, the people have to vote.
Right.
This is something we can just really do.
No.
No worries.
That's like it. I know we talked about it, and then we talked about it. That's something we can do.
What we're talking about is giving the town, what the assessor for the town is, they're going to give full control over it. Right now, the law of finance, the board of selectmen is the assessor. But are we comfortable being assessor? Are we certified being assessor? And right now, we're the only town in the area here that don't have somebody come in on their own. Maybe the other towns are either, they hire their assessor all out, and you deal all with the assessor, or they get town-owned assessors. Well, that's how they get away.
I don't know if that's an area that idea, but we turn it on 3 years. It goes on forever, everything we changes, we need somebody in there, up on it, and to do it, not up, right, not up.
Just a third of $80,000 a year inspection, that's all.
Right.
You know?
I would be certified for $80,000 a year.
All right, reminder, select board meeting Thursday night, September 10th, 7 p.m. We'll, everybody everybody that's left here, we'll be looking into a budget committee, if everybody's interested. I know one person is.
I make a motion, we ask for a reminder to chair the budget committee.
I second that. We'll be, advertising the salary, doing on the Facebook page and the website.
You want that next week's traffic check?
Sure.
And what's the process gonna be? Fill out an application or interest or
I would
something?
say come down, sit down with us, ready to choose pizza.
Yeah.
We'll look at a formal application and we have credentials, go from there.
Yeah.
How many people are gonna be on it?
Say 4 or 5 hours.
Go for it. 5. We need to be, I need to know.
I think it's gonna be a good thing, but I think it's gonna be like, actually, the budget committee is gonna be an eye opener for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stuff they don't see.
Public questions or comments? Anybody have anything else? Yeah.
Yes, I have a letter I would like to deliver to each of you, and also I would read it. Just to serve the local, LLC. The letter already has an addendum to it, based on information, new incoming information given to me by the state today. So, I figured that here being here, you probably would, should have our original signatures. Information about eminent health hazard findings of the state. And your income. And I am going to go over all of this. We have 40 signatures, and we likely could have had many other people sign. But a lot of people were fearful about possible retaliatory behavior for perhaps anyone else here? Did anyone else here like a copy of these information? Now, I am going to ask that people clear the eminent health hazard findings and the penalties to keep our state to the campground or to the court, mostly because I did not make as many copies as what you anticipated hopefully people. I think you're familiar with the other copies and I have a copy. You know what other copies here? Pardon me? And what? I look at the practice and the math with the double math. I might have to change over to another one. Anyone else? Just know what you did. See if I can even see it on anything. But moving for not just other sections of my own. All right. Yeah, what we last to read. If I project out like this, do I need to line? Okay. Huh? All right. Nature's Wilderness LLC residents of the town of Bolton, especially those living on Senator Black Road, and more specifically, those who are property abutters. For 4 tumultuous years, the owner, Scott Efron, and manager, Jerry Brown, Gary. I'm not familiar with that particular pronunciation of GTR, but you know how you read that. Have largely ignored local codes, refused to provide substantiating information to the Bolton Plan Network, presented false information to members of the Bolton Select Board, and disregarded the state of Maine law, all in a concerted effort to mislead town Bolton officials and to illegally open and operate a campground. At the Tuesday, August 4th, 2020 meeting of the Select Board, I was there. Jerry Brown intentionally delivered misinformation about the licensure status of Nature's Wilderness LLC, rather than provide written verification of the state of Maine licensure. He chose to use general information for the Maine.gov website using his mobile device. When the press report actually led us to substantiate his claim that Nature's Wilderness LLC had the green light to be operating, he skirted the request, offering a fabrication that the campground had been granted a conditional license from the state of Maine, pending the results of the water test. At that point, that was sort of a flag for us. Usually the state of Maine is very careful when it comes to water quality and a possible health hazard for the public. He deceived the residents of Bolton, who were in the office, and town officials by saying the license would arrive through the mail within 3 days, weeks. When asked to retrieve the information from his mobile device, he reluctantly agreed with gestures of impatience, saying, "I just read it." Code Enforcement Officer Wes Sunderland sat quietly and did not question Jerry Brown's web of deception. Suspicious that false information had been provided to deliberately hoodwink town Baldwin elected officials and residents who were in attendance, concerned individuals contacted the Department of Health and Human Services, Maine Center of Disease Control and Prevention, Division of Environmental and Community Health, Health Inspection Programs in Augusta on August 5th, 2020. That was the next day. They asked many well-informed questions and were provided with factual information by Michelle Mason Weber, a compliance specialist. Indeed, as suspected, Nature's Wilderness LLC was operating without a license and no application had ever been submitted. Now, the addendum is going to give you a little more information, and I will cover that at the end. Indeed, as I said, and as suspected, operating without a license. The park was operating illegally, and we question, unbeknownst to our elected town officials. The state of Maine Department of Health and Human Services moved quickly when there is imminent danger to health. Thus, Inspector Lori Harris was assigned to the case.
Lori Davis, not Harris. Davis.
Well, I have Harris, so I can stand pressure. I would like to get to the letter, however. The next day on August, Harris or Davis was assigned to the case. Wasting no time, Inspector Harris, Davis, visited Nature's Wilderness LLC. After inspecting the pool, an eminent health hazard notice was issued. You have that information right here. Today, when I talked to the compliance specialist in Augusta, she talked with her program supervisor and said she would provide all information that she could legally, email to me. And so she did. The pool was not certified, and the campground was not licensed. The pool was to be closed as of August 6th. The campground was also issued an eminent health notice, hazard notice. And again, substantiated in the paperwork from the state of Maine. In spite of the eminent health hazard notices and directives to close the pool and campground, there was evidence that the park remained open and in violation. When concerned community members once again contacted the state of Maine, DHHS, to report this local lack of regard for governance and public health by the owner and manager of Nature's Wilderness LLC. This prompted the return of Inspector Harris/David, whichever, who saw firsthand that park management had not complied as directed. The defiance and total disregard of the laws of the state of Maine resulted in 2 notices of administrative penalty assessment for operating in violation of eminent health hazard notices. Those are also here, and the fees or penalties levied are also in that literature. One was for the pool on August 21st, and the other for the campground. These documents were sent certified mail and were signed for at Nature's Wilderness LLC on August 26th, 2020. On Thursday, August 27th, 2020, an individual in attendance at regularly scheduled planning board meeting at Nature's Wilderness LLC was licensed by the state to be in operation. That individual already knew the answer, but was looking to see what would be revealed. A definitive answer was never provided, nor did it appear to be forthcoming. Further complicating this quagmire is the fact that select person Jerry Brown routinely refuses to fully recuse himself when Nature's Wilderness LLC is on the agenda. Thus, he influences this discussion and hinders the objectiveness of other select persons. Jerry positions himself to gain an advantage as he pushes forward his not so hidden business agenda, specifically to manage Nature's Wilderness LLC without following all state of Maine laws pertaining to campgrounds and RV resorts that set forth to protect the safety of the general public. At this point, the illegal activity and total lack of regard for the law has gone on too long. Incompetent park management is not trustworthy. Scott Efron and Jerry Brown must be held accountable and be required to substantiate all claims with written documentation on official letterhead from appropriate governing bodies, certifying and licensing. Indeed, past behavior is reliable in the field of future behavior. Thus, who? Members of the Walden Select Board make phone calls to various agencies that oversee licensure of campgrounds and RV resorts to ascertain that Nature's Wilderness LLC is in compliance. And now, since many of Jerry Brown's fabrications have been uncovered, and his intent to deceive is not arguable, we, the undersigned individuals, urge town and Bolton officials to move forward with intense scrutiny when addressing issues regarding Nature's Wilderness LLC. It is imperative to examine closely all incoming information from the administrative staff members of Nature's Wilderness LLC and consistently require that all positions be accompanied by documentation. Seemingly a daunting task, it is a reliable best practice to adopt. It is essential to avoid being repeatedly pulled into Jerry Brown's web of deception. In closing, we want to make it clear that we will continue to
make phone calls and to have a strong voice. We will not be silenced by our very own elected officials. We will continue to safeguard our liberties and our way of life. Furthermore, we should not be criticized for this commitment, but we should be commended for our diligence in keeping Bowling Lane a safe place. Now, I do want to share the agenda with you, because today, additional information was supplied. And I do take my hat off that Siri is starting to, fill out an application, send it to the state, etc. On September 8th, being today, Michelle Mason-Weber, compliance specialist at the Department of Health and Human Services, Maine Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Division of Environmental and Community Health, Health and Protection Program, and Augusta, Maine, provided an update about Nature's Wilderness LLC. She informed concerned Baldwin residents, I signed this letter, that an application for Nature's Wilderness LLC had been received September 2nd, 2020, not ever before then. That application has been tagged as active. An application for the pool had also been received. So again, nice that we got finally done with this. However, licenses for the pool and campground have not been issued yet because the administrative penalties have not been paid. Nature's LLC has until September 26th to appeal the two administrative penalty assessment notices. The attached letter that I just read to you, dated September 4th, has not been altered because it is the letter that the signatory read. Therefore, I could not touch the original letter because that is what the individual signing had read. But the addendum fills you in on the up-to-date information as of approximately 1:45 this afternoon. Thank you.
These, none of these is taken care of, what we found.
I'm sorry.
None of these, issues is taken care of besides the penalties.
The penalties have not been paid as of this afternoon at 1:45, according to Michelle Weber. At the very, very back of your packet is the contact information, and I really urge you.
Gary, have you no shame? Have you no shame, Gary?
Has
You're
you
so
been
ashamed of yourself.
Hey, I'm
Do it.
Non-stop.
I'm talking.
Non-stop.
I express for respect that I'm talking to
You
people.
do the same thing down there, you sit in the audience, do the same thing.
See?
This is not a meeting, it's not a agenda, it's not everybody.
You just proved what you said.
Very,
Discussion.
very of this. And I really urge you as select people to call.
No shame.
Just to check on stuff, it behooves you. And we as concerned people are not against you as select people. We want a safe community. We don't mind a well-run family campground that is licensed with a pool that is licensed. That doesn't
temperature and then go out and use it and still not keep them informed. These are the behaviors, parents behavior tells us a lot about that. So we really do have to stay on this. I'm not sure the legal ramifications if something really bad happens down there, someone drowning in the pool or something, someone that's terribly sick. I'm not sure the legal ramifications of how that would ever come back to the town. I really don't know. I'm not a lawyer. But I do feel strongly that we should do your very best to stay on top of it. And I will, and other concerned members, we're going to be calling and trying to get updates at least once a week. And we can share this information with you so that we can have a stronger, safer town for the citizens. Thank you.
All these questions will be answered in what the packet you gave them. They'll all be answered, all the testing has been done, everything's been done, we will see case off, public drinking water, all that's been done, taken care of, will be in this is a full shutdown, and the campground license is pending up. We have stuff we can remedy, having worked with Roy Beaver, non-stop up there, we're going to spend. We have a fire truck, we have the plumbing back up there, we have to fix, we're fixing it, moving forward. But you still have that light, we have conditions. Nothing right, we're working with it, get it finished. We have to get, there's fencing from the cabin. The pool is another whole issue. That's a huge issue that we don't take. It's actually a lawsuit going on with the pool company, but that's mitigated. It's an open now, it's not open now.
Would you two agree that there is not a conflict of interest with him and the Anchorage Wilderness sitting as a selectman? Does he have a conflict of interest? You agree or not?
I'm talking to them. Can I just say one thing? I 100% agree with you.
Good.
If it's with voting or talking about anything, I need to get it.
You need to
ask me how to answer the question.
Leave the data. That's a proper refusal.
Well, I'll sit over here and I'll answer the questions, but if I'm being criticized, I
And do
need
it
to have
at every
the
meeting, not just tonight's the show, every meeting. Refuse yourself.
I
There's probably a conflict of interest, and the state will agree with that. If you want the state to get involved, go ahead. If you want the state, because they're gonna oversee this whole thing, and you guys are gonna be in collusion with this. Because you're allowing him to sit and make
I never sat and voted on anything in Nation Movement. I have always sat.
the state will look into this.
Have a look into it. Good.
As far as the selectmen is concerned, about voting on anything, it's got to do with, we don't vote on anything.
Has he had anything to say about it on the day?
That's all the planning, we don't vote on anything.
So when you're discussing, if you look at the conflict of interest statutes, when you're discussing it, you're supposed to physically remove yourself from there.
I agree with that.
And I do that on the planning board. I still talk to the audience, but I make a statement to everybody physically that I'm not part of the planning board when the discussions about this.
Right. I agree with that.
Thank you.
I would like to say there's a Maine Board of Ethics, I'm planning on calling them. A lot of the concerns, not only Gary not refusing himself, but also operating a campground without a license, not letting anybody know that. I'm tired of four-wheelers going up and down my road and people speeding. The other concern, major concern that I have is our CEO, who goes to a fireworks display that is in violation and retaliates by telling me my animals will be okay. You three sit there and listen to this man tell you one lie after another, and the rest of us sit here in astonishment that you're all in cahoots. The only thing I have left to do is call the Board of Ethics, and in all my life, in all my small towns, and all the civic duties I've ever done, I have never had to go that far. And it really hurts me because I like you two. But you've been with me. Wes, I don't know what his thing is, but it's between he and Gary. It's got nothing to do with the good of the town. If this man had done things right from the beginning, had a license, I wouldn't be coming to every single damn meeting for 4 years. And I'm tired of coming when you have ever said that. I feel like I've been out here on a stage all by myself, trying to make things right, and you have not listened. Wes has certainly not listened, and Gary has he's sitting there telling you on the stage that we're wrong. I talked to the state as well. They had not even heard from Gary right after the last Selectmen's meeting I attended. Had no idea. He had not even applied for the water testing. I wasn't smart enough to pick up on that, but there were a couple of other people in the audience that night that did. I'm not sure whether things have to be filed in the town about licensing that he may have, but he certainly has not recused himself, and he certainly is a conflict on the board, and I'm sure the state will feel the same way. And that's about all I have to say after 4 years.
I just got one thing to say. We have finally had a legitimate business in concrete following, and all you guys are doing running out of fucking town so they can look your road.
Do it.
That is the only big issue that we have.
Do it legally.
Yeah. I'm done.
I keep getting criticized for four rules.
Gary, do it. You guys are ridiculous, man.
I agree, there is some things that we can talk about, we're everything, but everything is on this, the four wheelers is on that road, it's like every black, have to do the marks from road to ground road, it's not from our campus. Okay. I live on that road. I once that is open, the traffic is increased exponentially. If I gotta put a camera in my front window to prove it, I'll do it. I would like that. Good. There's the sheriff up there Saturday too. What's that? There's the sheriff up there Saturday too. Follow their place. It's not from my campus. Your credibility is zero. You've lied many times. So what you say means nothing. It means zero. On tape, you've been a proven liar. So what does that tell anyone?
Joe,
I think that is the issue, you two have been lied to, and you guys are good guys. I mean, you have that Christian urge to give and to believe people, and I admire that in both of you. I mean, I know you're good people, and so when somebody tells you something, you believe them because you want to. And I think the time has come. It is very difficult. It's very difficult for anybody in your position. And you've got to understand that you're trying to work with somebody you can't work with.
I want to mention your feeling that you are criticizing. It's not criticism, it's violation. Any law to your attention. That's not you're not criticizing him, but stating that when he misrepresents the truth. I mean, we're speaking the truth, and the truth shouldn't be misconstrued as criticism. Our effort is to make, we're fine with campgrounds. If it's a well-worn feeling campground, it's fine. Belong. And, you know, and people continue to think they just don't want a campground. It's not about not wanting a campground. It's about wanting a well-run, law-abiding campground. That's really what it's about.
familiar with any intention of speaking at all, especially on the record or on this particular issue. I do think there's a path forward here. I've tried to give confidence in the past that speaks to the fact that there's a path forward. The problem is, everything can be true at the same time. There can be technical violation, there could be a misrepresentation, there could be a misunderstanding. I deal with regulation a lot, and it is very easy for somebody not to understand what they're supposed to do, or not to understand what a particular requirement is, thinking they met that requirement when they have not. I will not ever speak to what Gary or anyone else's intentions and motivations are, not if I don't know. The problem that I mentioned before is impropriety or an appearance of impropriety. This is the problem. We, collectively as the residents, can't be sure as to what level you or Gary, when he's serving his selectman role, what safeguards are in place, what formal mechanisms are in place. If Gary is selectman and the manager of Nature's Wilderness, then there can be layers of built-in formalities that allow for those things to both be the case and to alleviate the concern of the members of the town. But you have to go the extra step. You have to take that extra measure, whatever it may be, formally in writing, the transparency, the conversation. And the problem when there is an event like this is, and I can understand why it feels personal to certain people. I don't think as a human being that's an inappropriate reaction. The problem is he's also a select person. And if he can't separate those roles, or if you can't separate those roles with the proper layers or safeguards, he's not finding himself. He's serving as a selectman and a manager. If he wants to do both, he needs to take extra steps. That's it. Those steps are there. Those opportunities are there. Those safeguards can easily be put in place if there's an effort or a willingness to put them in place and have everybody work together. I don't think anyone here that goes to a proper operating campground, and if the concerns were alleviated, there'd be less concerns. There is a path forward. Please take those steps. I think we can get somewhere better than we are now, and better than we've been for the last several years. I know that it's possible, and it doesn't mean either or. There's lots of gray in the world. It's not black or white, and that's it. There's everything in between. It takes some thought, some effort, and some formality. You can do that, and I ask you to please do that.
What would be your advice on that? What we can do to try to, because I like to be transparent. And I know these folks here, they do it like that. So I want to be transparent with them. And us work with them. So what would be our advice on this?
I can't provide you legal advice because you're not my
Right, I know, the personal.
But if you ask me
You're
what
sitting on the other side of the table, we're sitting on this side. What would you say? So,
I think there's two concerns.
you seem to be kind of in the middle here, so.
That's my job. I have to see both sides of the issue.
Right.
I've tried to talk to you about that before. I'm trained to do that. The problem here is you're not even starting from zero. You're starting from negative 4 years worth and all these things.
Right.
When somebody is predisposed to see certain pieces of information in a certain way, it takes 500 times of them not seeing that to the one time they see it to say, see, I told you. The 500 won't matter, it's the one. You have to go above and beyond over and over and over and over. That means not only physical refusal by going and sitting down. I've only attended a handful of these meetings, but I could probably give you an example from each one where it would make me uncomfortable as a fiduciary in that scenario. either in a discussion, so it's either there is overt conflict, and behind the scenes, you guys are having conversations you shouldn't have, and looking the other way, and major wilderness is doing something. I don't believe that's what's happening, but that can happen. Or we can be sitting here seeing all this evidence and all these things going on, and the state saying there's no license, and they're saying there is a license, and we're looking to you as the officials and going, well, this doesn't make any sense. How can it be that all of this is true? Don't they know? Are they not looking? Appearances is surprise. And I think what Gary has to understand and be willing to accept, and that's, it's unfortunate, but he's brought it on himself by wanting to be a spokesperson. He has to stomach these conversations. He has to sit there and answer for it. If somebody writes a letter, it can't be, oh gosh, here we go again. He's stirring people and all they do is fuss. We've got to be open and willing to have those conversations. It's like if somebody wants to be the president of the United States, they're going to take the heat. They're going to take it from people who like them, they're going to take them from people who don't. So a lot of that written formal communication, if you're having a formal meeting on the record and it's a work session, don't have discussion about make sure it's wilderness if he's present. Maybe don't he can recuse himself and sit in the audience and communicate on the issues. Maybe it can be by agenda only for a while. And set a guideline, here's how we're going to behave. Any concerns about issues involving any of the three select persons or where there's potential conflict of interest for any of the select persons, which is all of them, not just Gary, then those topics come onto the agenda this way. Discuss it on the agenda and approved by whoever the non-conflicted or disinterested parties. You can have a disinterested select person that serves on votes and discussions when one who is conflicted in that scenario, but you can't expect us to come along if there doesn't appear to be recognition that this is an issue that deserves some creative opportunity. So if you're asking me if probably for a 1, 2, 3, I could give you a 1, 2, 3, but I would like to think about it. We talk about it with you in writing that can be published. You are not the only account that has these issues. All across Maine, there's people who serve and who also have businesses or who also have interest in different property or other things. This is not an unusual problem, but off the top of my head, adopt something different, implement it, and carry it forward. This is to make the town operate better than before. Maybe next time it's you or you win the lottery and buy a whole bunch of businesses in town, and all of a sudden people are like, well, why is wait, right? So the idea is, how would we treat this ever with any of you or any future select person who ever had an interest? Give that some thought and formality and then apply it. So it doesn't feel like just it's one business and one select person. It should be above that. This should be how we want the town to operate. This is just illuminated for us the fact that, we might want to think about these things, because I think that this is going down this path, and I'd love to see it go down this. And I think part of that is taking a step back, separating from the emotion and the particulars of this situation, and designing something more local, comprehensive that makes sense. And there's all kinds of resources and examples that I could share on time.
Right. Almost like
I won't be quite as analytical as her, I'll sum it up by saying I think it fits with the home roots. And part of the problem there, in terms of his capabilities, I don't think anybody ever questioned that. I think before the election, it did say, is there a conflict here? Because when Scott Ashton came in, he was very brash, very well to do, and coming in and purchasing the land with the mindset, I can do whatever I want to because it's my land. And he found out that he was going up against the town of Albany and has rules and regulations and zoning for a reason to protect the rest of the residents in the town. So Gary stepped forward, and he was very articulate, and he said he was going to take over where Scott left over, and we're all pleased with that. But the only thing is, even nobody's saying that you three selectmen are all the rules and but the perception is there, and it's not good. And that's why you throw out when somebody decides to run for office. Is there any conflict? And I think that's the same thing with Joe. When I was sitting on the board and I was paying to Guy Oil, when it came to fuel oil contracts, where did I go? I wasn't present in the room. I left. I wanted nothing to do with it. So there was the perception that I was whispering in somebody's ear. So it's just right now, sort of kind of looks like a fox who got in the chicken. So, I said, not really analytical, but she's absolutely correct. You need to kind of address that going forward in the future, so you don't have it.
Well, it's certainly a lot of issues that I was not aware of. So, thank you for bringing that forward.
You're welcome. And I hope that you can take time and you have the questions to follow the state authorities who are experts in the area. You're welcome.
I'm hoping, I really like what Tracy said, but I still hope that you enforce the land use ordinance. Maybe you check with the state to find out if they do have a license. Yeah. If they don't have a license, you might actually issue a stop work order or whatever it is you do. You know, you might enforce. I would hope you would.
Well, that's why I was hoping Dan helped with it. That's kind of some phone call. Digging into it more.
Frequency is also close, because last week, the application had, Gary finally, or Gary finally filled out the application. That had not been received when he drafted that first letter. But today, it was in their computer database that it was received on September 2nd. It's definitely the right direction for Gary, you know? So, but it took several visits from Inspector Harris, question mark Davis. I may have heard it wrong over the telephone, he may be entirely right. But the name really, in some ways, is as important as the role this person has served. But you do have to, you have three numbers, the general number, compliance specialist number, and that the assigned inspector. And they're all wonderful people to speak with.
Yeah. The only other thing I'd like to add to it, to the question, Gary's integrity, if you will, but I walk the dog every single day, and four-wheelers are coming up from down at the end of Brown Road, and they're coming down from Saddleback. I don't know that they're coming from the campground, so he says that they're not campground four-wheelers. That's all I'm going to say, is I don't see them coming from the campground down, they're coming from Brown Road or 113. Right, they're going, they're dirt bikes as well as four-wheelers, and the thing that concerns me is if I see a vehicle coming, I'm getting off one side and going home. They're going too fast.
Yeah. We got that problem in Iowa too, there. A lot of ATVs. We had a bus going through a couple of weeks ago. It was like 4 or 5 of them, big ones, the 4-seater ones.
Exactly.
And they were looking for a trailer. I didn't know it existed, you know. I think they kept going across the nursery. I got to go with them 113. They're on my home.
The other day, they went by, no lights on at all. The only time you could see it when they turned the street light up front of the house.
Really?
That's a problem, no doubt.
My wife actually stopped a couple of them the other day and had to talk to them. Speeding by our house. They've been pretty good. They kept the house, they slow right down. So.
I mean, if they're not supposed to be on the road, you don't call attention to yourself, go cruise and speed.
Right.
Until you get to where you're going.
Right.
Thank you guys so much for the very.
We tried, Joe, we tried.
It's not there, you don't know anything about it.
Right,
You know, so it's when it's time to die.
right.
Anything that I can do to help you, please let me know.
Yeah.
Very sincere.
Often use of an independent party in these situations, just so the two of you aren't pitted against, a colleague directly. I think that would be something that could be very useful in this case.
Yeah.
And you could use that person anytime there's any question, or there could even be the perceived idea of a question of something involving one of the you or the rest. That usually works extremely well. Is having a independent party who has no skin in that game. They're there just to relay facts on both sides to facilitate
Yeah.
the outcome everybody is looking for.
Like a third party non-biased.
They're not tainted, correct, they don't walk in with a position. And I think it's important to realize the issue on the merits. There are always going to be people in town of Belgium that don't love the traffic increase, and don't love hearing the fireworks, and don't love hearing people cut at the pool that was open in their own front yard and keep it quiet. But we can all accept the fact that, that is a permitted use. There is a conditional use permit, and as long as the campground is operating under those terms, we get grin and bear it, right? That's the idea. But I think we have to get to where there's trust, and to rebuild that trust on both sides. I think we use an independent party in this case and in future cases, in a more rural environment like this, usually works very well. And I say that to say, the issues on the merits of the campground, what people's personal opinions are about the campground, is very different than the municipal procedures that you would like to adopt, and how you carry yourself with what people and Gary was serving in that role. Those are two separate things, and I would ask you to carefully delineate those, keep them separated. Don't get into the merits of campground. This is about how the town needs to operate, and how we start to work through and alleviate and rebuild trust in our operation as government officials, and not so much on we don't like the campground, what we do. That really is secondary, right? The idea is, how do we run this town in a way that both the town people and our officials can be proud of, that we can hold ourselves up as an example for other areas. With all the economic problems, this is like they did to work through that problem. These are two totally separate things, and I think when there are emotions and passions involved, it makes that even harder, because it almost erodes any hope or trust you had that could be separated. So I think we need to build in some structures and mechanisms that help all these parties operate in the appropriate role in a way that it's all that kind of on the same page. I do believe that's possible.
Anything else? Go ahead, Kathy.
The library is slated to open on Friday. Limited access, masks mandatory. If you don't want to cover your face, you can do curbside. You can phone in requests, they can be carried out. We're doing the best we can to keep everybody safe. We moved all of those little toys and so forth for the small kids, which is heartbreaking for most of us. Because kids learn in so many ways, it's not just about books and stories. But that's all we can offer at the moment. So we're going with that. The Historical Society has moved out of the basement, so they ended their lease as far as that goes. I'm negotiating for the case in the hallway for a circular book stack, and there's a very large bookcase that they had no way to move or place to put, so that's staying. We're going to use that space for different sort of book situations where people can go down and use like how to do books that are out of custodian, and we don't have anybody to rent that space in. So we're just absorbing the cost. I have the inspector for the elevator coming tomorrow at noon, and so we'll get our certificate. It's due by October 3rd to verify the systems of the elevator. Everything seems to be working, so I'm guessing that's okay. And we're still trying to get some sort of climate control for the usage of the books upstairs. Heat pumps have come to mind, so Matt Fricker is pricing those out, between the blanket comfort which runs the system and Dave's World, I think it's called.
Yep.
Okay, it's a heating pump company. He came out and measured, and he's supposed to give us a price for that. Jan's looking for a grant to cover whatever it is we wind up doing. So, I don't know, we're working towards a better condition for it.
Forward, yeah.
Yeah, and we hope to be able to do some sort of program. We've got the, extension service has preserving the harvest. There's programs to teach you how to can and dry and so forth, process your garden. Right now it's on a Zoom situation. You just call in and register. They want $5. I don't know how that gets paid, but whatever, that's their thing. So we're still trying to make some sort of program there. We're trying to do programs.
Good.
That's all the news I got. Sure.
Who's done that?
Oh, I'm just here listening to everyone. I've had a whole question. Not that I was going to do it, but since you looked at me, I think I should say it. If this all doesn't resolve, and I think you have some wonderful suggestions to these selectmen. But if Gary can't calm himself down and understand where his place is as a selectman and recuse himself every time the campground is brought up, is there a procedure that some people could do to ask for his resignation as a selectman? I would hate to see it come to that. I would like to see him come around, because people involved with voted him in and gave him a chance. But he has proved time and time again he blew it. And he does it all the time. Every time I have ever been in a meeting when he's in, he's done something that ruins the trust of the town people, at least for me. So, is there a procedure, or is there something, if this doesn't, because we've got, what, 4 more years with him on the selectmen? He doesn't come up for re-election this year.
No,
Next year he does.
There is a recall procedure.
Hmm?
A recall procedure.
Okay.
That has to be done, it has to be done with the vote of the town, because he is elected official, it has to be done by the vote of the town. So it can be, there is a recall procedure.
Okay.
It has to be done by the vote of the town. I think you have to really prove that he has broken the law.
Okay.
It's,
That's the big, not because he's just continuously being a put mildly and nicely injured.
right. And we've had everything before.
Yeah.
And looked into it.
Yeah.
And like he's done something really illegal.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Well, I was just wondering, what the basis for doing something like that in case it ever came up in conversation with other townspeople that I talked to. Yeah. And the other thing that I wanted to know is, even though we have the CEO and the campground asked for permits and everything, and when representatives from the campground says that they have done something, is there any fact checking done by the CEO or you do that he has actually done it when
it comes to the state or any other entity other than the town?
Not my house, really.
Not by you?
I'm gonna go with this, actual stuff. I know they're working on it right now. Let's check the balance.
Yeah.
Well, it, you know, the concerned citizens approach me and who does process it, and whether you should or you just keep their word for it. So, you know, that's just something to consider in the future when there's another person in the town who is looking for, a permit to operate a business. Do they also need state approval for certain, functions that they're going to use for their business, and whether or not they have gotten the correct, permit from the state before we give them a permit?
I just assumed that everything was okay, planning board gave their signature on it, and I assumed it.
Yes, well, maybe that's something that you can consider putting in your, checkbook.
Right.
You know,
Maybe
that's something to adopt.
You know, we don't like to hire a lawyer, we can help it, we might be forced to.
Yeah.
You know, we try to keep the costs down.
Yeah.
Maybe this is Steve going out of control and stuff, so we gotta hire that lawyer.
But if you set it up like an ethics compliance board, it's voluntary, and you utilize your citizenry, be able to do certain things without having to hire a lawyer.
A lot of
Your
this,
citizens have shown that they're capable of assisting.
a lot of this stuff is new to us.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it ain't like
Oh,
you go this.
yeah.
You ask me something about training, I can hold my own. You know, you ask me about some of these rules and regulations, I don't know. And for working a part-time job, if you want me to dot the I and cross the T's on everything here, maybe it's time to be looking for something else. You know, you're asking quite a lot here.
Oh, absolutely. You're asking a lot of things, and, you know, you do your best.
But I think that's right. By accepting this role, you accept duty. You may not be fairly compensated for your time.
No.
And executing your duties. But you have to be willing to do them anyway, all the way.
Right.
And it is asking a lot, and these issues shed light on how much it's sometimes gonna have to do. And it would deter anybody who has other things going on in their life, which is why it's called public service. And I think what I'm saying is kind of quiet down the immediate situation for a minute, take a big step backwards and put something in place globally that's not about carrying the campground. It's about, well, how are we gonna make this work based on our budget, our time, what can come up from time to time, and use that as a learning experience and put some bumpers on the lanes of the bowling alley so it operates better in the future without effort, et cetera, et cetera.
You know this. If you think you can buy me, whatever, bypass something on me, you know,
Well, I don't think.
that ain't gonna happen.
No, okay,
I tell you right now.
It doesn't mean unfortunately, you accept the duty to make the call and go that extra mile. You know, maybe you have to have a substantiated basis of concern. You know, it doesn't have to be impossible. But that goes back to there's a lot between black and white, a whole bunch of gray in the middle, and it's looking at what those levels are, or should be.
So, like, what Pete mentioned, when it comes to, things like, somebody comes to us to repair cars, you know, they want us to and we ask to see their garage people's license.
Right.
You know,
Right, yeah.
and we ask to see a certificate of insurance. And, you know, and that, I think that's what you gotta do before you read what comes out of these two voting lists. We gotta see your actual permit.
Right.
We gotta, you know, for the state, we gotta see your actual water test. I was flabbergasted when I went through the list of requirements for a campground that you do your own water test. I mean, I'm involved in certifying my wood equipments to be self-sustaining. And I have to have third-party certification. So you come in and check in.
Yeah.
You know, and that was just, I mean, you could go to your neighbor's house and get the water and send it to the state and say, that's from the campground. At least that's what I saw when I read it.
Yeah.
But I think you gotta ask for that actually.
And that's just go for the campground, I'll do it right now. If it's somebody else who wants to come into town, and people will come into town and see us as being a small town development. And, maybe they can, you know, go right past us with the big city ideas and get away with all kinds of stuff. Maybe somebody else will lead us, but we have to be on our, we have to know what we're doing and what to ask for and what to verify before we take the work, after they take the work. I mean, they can say what they have done, they can say what they have done, and they say they have certificates and stuff, but we have to request them, like we say. Going that extra step and verifying that what they say they do, what they say they want is that's it. So.
Thank you guys for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I think we got, these two guys are just,
I think this is.
taking an unfortunate time to resource.
Right.
No, it's great.
Reevaluation, yeah.
I know.
Well, I think it might be a learning situation, for the planning board too.
Yeah.
I know you guys are trying to balance everything out, trying to please the neighbors, but you also want reasonable businesses coming in town. So you gotta try to balance it out, so you do a pretty good job.
I don't know if you heard what I had to say to him now earlier. One of the people coming in front of us for a subdivision wanted to know what fees he had to pay. And we had told him, but, yeah. And so he called them now what fees were. And the thing is, we've looked at the subdivision fees and they are so absorbent that as a planning board, we said, well, we can waive this, but we won't waive everything, but we'll waive a percentage of the fees. Because, you know, I don't ever want to see another house built in Baldwin, but on the other hand, I guess gotta make a living and, you know, be left with somewhere, you know. So I said, we'll tell the guy to come in and talk to us on Thursday, because we're gonna load it fees. From this problem, and that's the way we try to be fair and long.
Right.
I also think it's really important that we don't let this be another issue that turns into an issue. I don't like to see people going for various campgrounds or getting various campgrounds. We need to be for what's right and good for the town and separate time and merit, but we shouldn't have people come to each other. I don't have to love the campground, but I can sit and have a conversation that makes sense. And I think if we set up the structure to deal with these kinds of issues, it also helps keep that temperature down a notch. It's never good to have citizens feel animosity towards each other and conflict. It never leads to anything good. It never will. And as leadership, that is somewhere where your legacy today, because this is just going to go back to the core variant thing. And if your core variant good or against, this isn't even about that. Take a step back to kind of common ground, how we set this up, and there's great opportunity here. And I would love to see that as the end result of what's happening in our people and as most of it.
I don't like to see neighbors.
No, I mean, I
don't like it.
I can tell you that it's very hard to watch that happen.
This is the second time this has happened here. When they built the tower up in West Baldwin, we had the same thing happen there. There's people who moved out of town, there's people who didn't speak.
And I think there's opportunity in how those discussions go, how the players conduct themselves, having the independent party, having a great facilitator, we're gonna need that, because it's really easy to separate it for our corners, it's really hard to come together and hang in there and do something tough. And we have to work here and help us get there.
Don't get your hopes up, boy, I'm not leaving.
Okay, what's your